I've included also the sign called the triad sign, which basically looks like the 3 nails or toes of a rooster. We see here in this picture the different people standing with their hands in this position. The sign of the rooster has always been an occultic sign. But what is so amazing about this is that there are 3 pictures here. We see one of the old kings standing with his hand on his hip, with his 2 fingers in the middle together, and his other 2 fingers removed a little bit from one another, so it will not be too obvious. Then we see another sign. We see a sign of Hitler standing with his hand on his hip, again with his 2 fingers in the middle together and the other fingers a little bit removed from one another. And if that is not obvious, we also see that these signs are sometimes combined. The hand in the hip is actually making the shoulder make a right angle degree, standing for the square and compass, saying that we are Freemasons. We are part of Freemasonry. With the trident sign actually showing us that we are part of the occult. Here we also see Pope Ratzinger, the current Pope, making 2 different signs, having his hand over his eye for the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, as well as the trident sign of the occultic practices with which they are involved in, which is nothing else but sun worship. Here God reveals that Hitler is also part of, we'll see a little bit later in another sign that Yeshua had shown us, that Hitler has also been part of this. And the horrific things that happened in the Holocaust, the killing of both Jews and Protestants, have actually been done under the instigation of the Roman Catholic Church, and because of the occultic practices which they are involved with. The so-called Boas grip of an entered apprentice. The grip of an entered apprentice is made by pressing the thumb against the top of the first knuckle joint of the fellow Mason. The fellow Mason also presses his thumb against the first Mason's knuckle. The name of this grip is Boas. When a candidate is imparted with this grip, its usage is done in this manner. First, the worshipful master says to the candidate, "I now present my right hand in token of friendship and brotherly love, and I will invest you with a grip and word. As you are uninstructed, he who has hereto answered for you will do so at this time." So we see that entering, they are learning to make these grips. But what is also very important is that Freemasonry gives people and those who enter it a great promise. It says that I love you. It means I will work with you. If you are in trouble, I will come and I will save you. And that is the biggest reason why most people find it so attractive. Because it basically says if they hit you, they hit us. So your enemies become our enemies. They are actually making a covenant with you to protect you and to supply and provide for you if you will keep their secrets and if you will advance their cause. What cause are you really advancing? What is the purpose of all these things? And why do they want to draw people into doing these signs? Because at each level they reveal and teach you something else. Many people who are actually part of this, I had a personal friend who were part and became a Freemason. And he was actually a Christian. without realizing that Freemasonry is in direct opposition to the Word of God. He never really knew what these things meant. He just did it because his father used to be one. And he thought that it was really a matter of honor to be part of it. And initially, when they bring in the first level apprentices, they actually make you promise on the Bible. And it really seems like it actually agrees with your religion. But as time goes on, they slowly start to swing you over towards another religion, revealing themselves little by little, and also trying to change your mindset and trying to get you to worship a new God, their God. A not so obvious sign is the sign of the hand grips or the different types of greetings. Actually, the normal way of greeting is actually one of the signs. But it's hard to detect because normal people greet one another. But when one of the following signs, we see a sign of the grip or the pass grip of an entered apprentice, how the thumb is pressed on one of the first knuckles. Then the grip or the pass grip of the fellow craft. We see that the thumb is lowered down and pushed on the other knuckle. We see the real grip of a fellow craft is pushed on the second knuckle. Although these signs are not always that easy to see, we can see that there is a possibility that these signs are very clear, and these signs are actually signs from a Masonic person who reveals the secrets of Freemasonry. The Shibboleth hand grip or handshake is the hand is taken in an ordinary handshake, and the Mason presses the top of his thumb against the space between the first and second knuckle joints of the first two fingers of his fellow Mason. The fellow Mason also presses his thumb on the corresponding part of the first Mason's hand. The name of this grip is called Shibboleth. Then there's a grip called the Jakin grip. The Mason takes the fellow Mason by the right hand, as in an ordinary handshake, and presses the top of his thumb hard on the second knuckle. And the fellow Mason presses his thumb against the same knuckle of the first Mason's hand. At this point in the ritual, the instruction goes directly from the pass grip to the real grip. So we see that it actually is not so obvious to see, but you can see clearly how the finger is pressed on the knuckle. The Tubal-Cain grip. The Mason places his thumb on the space between the second and the third knuckles of the fellow Mason's right hand, while the fellow Mason moves his thumb to the corresponding space on the first Mason's hand. The thumb is pressed hard between the second and third knuckles of the hand. The name of the grip is Tubal-Cain. Then there's the Mahabon handshake, which is a very different handshake. The Mason firmly grasps the right hand of a fellow Mason. The thumb of both hands are interlaced. The first Mason presses the top of his fingers against the wrist of the fellow Mason, where it unties with the hand. The fellow Mason at the same time presses his fingers against the corresponding part of the first Mason's hand, and the fingers of each are somewhat apart. This grip is also called the strong grip of the Master Mason, or the lion's paw. Instruction for this grip is given at the gravesite, after the candidate has been raised. Here we see how Satan perverts the truth. He knows that Yeshua, Jesus Christ, has been raised from the dead. He expected it, and now that it has happened, he's trying to teach people that no, Nimrod was the one who died, but he never died, he was resurrected. And if you want to be part of this Masonic ritual, he starts to teach you little by little to accept his religion. What happens at this stage is a person is often have to climb into a coffin, and it is also said that if he allows the secrets of Masonry to come out, that he will be placed in a coffin alive, and he will suffocate the most gruesome death. We see the very promises they make, they will deliver on. This lion's paw is also a very interesting grip. It is also a so-called grip to save you, revealing to you that you were dead, but now that you accept their religion, you are actually becoming alive. We'll now briefly look at some handshakes that were made in the past by presidents and very important officials in the world, and how they have actually shaken one another's hands with the same Masonic grips and handshakes, proving that they are Freemasons. We see here how the President Obama is shaking the hand of McCain, actually the one who is in opposition to him before he came into become the 44th president. We also see here how Winston Churchill and the three men, also Mussolini standing right next to them, are shaking hands in a very Masonic fashion. We see the French president shaking the hands of the president of Libya, Gaddafi, in a very strange way as he presses on his knuckle. We might say, but it just looks like he's just grabbing his hand in a funny fashion. Well, look at the next one. See how the Pope and Tony Blair are greeting one another, and how clearly Tony Blair presses his thumb on between the second and the third knuckle, indicating that they are Freemasons and they're working for the same kind of Masonic secret societies. And this photo was taken while they did this so that the world may know that they are working together, and that there is a signal that the world must know how to deal with all the rest of the situations around Britain and the Roman Catholic Church. The last science we want to look at in this discussion, in order just to show that all the presidents of the world, the Pope and many important officials are actually making secret Masonic hand signs. They all work together behind the scenes so that the world are actually deceived in thinking that they are fighting against one another while they are actually working together. The last sign we're looking at is a very interesting sign that looks like a greeting, where two men are actually kissing one another, or look like they are kissing one another. It's the 5 points of fellowship is demonstrated as the worshipful master and candidate embrace one another thusly, foot to foot, knee to knee, breast to breast, hand to back, cheek to cheek, and mouth to ear. While in this position, and at a low breath, the worshipful master then whispers Mahabon into the ear of the candidate. And then the last sign we look at is called the grand hailing sign of distress. After receiving instruction in the proper communication of the substitute for the master's word, the candidate is then instructed in regard to the grand hailing sign of distress. It is given by raising both hands towards heaven, with each arm forming the angle of a square, or a 90-degree angle. The arms are then lowered in 3 distinct motions to the side. So we see that there are very distinct ways that they actually will greet one another. Here is a sign where the President of the United States, President Barack Obama, is hugging the President of India in a very interesting fashion. It is as if he is climbing in underneath his arm and holding him around the waist. It looks very funny while President Obama is smiling, but what it really means is, just like a chicken takes somebody under her wing, so he is giving a Freemason sign saying that India works with America and they will take them under their wing and they will protect them. In conclusion, Freemasonry have many ways of actually indicating that they are working together and that they are of the same faith. Not only hand signs but also symbols are used in company logos to prove and show that they actually know the secrets of Masonry. Their logo also revealing their height as well as the fact that they do work together. And we've just included a few here so that you might know and see the truth of these Masonic signs. The form of a Masonic lodge is said to be a parallelogram or a oblong square, its greatest length being from east to west and its breadth from north to south. A square or a circle or a triangle or any other form but that of a oblong square would be enmity and incorrect and un-Masonic, because such a figure would not be an expression of the symbolic idea which is intended to be conveyed. We see that squares and circles are often used to convey certain ideas and certain respects, especially the oblong square, which we can see here in different signs. We see the swastika standing in an oblong way in a rectangle. We see also in the Roman Catholic Church window, in an oblong way, the square is sitting. And there are many other signs. Most Masonic lodges have checkerboard floors. It is known in Freemasonry as the checkerboard of joy. Many board games, which are games of the mind or mind games, consist of black and white squares, often forming a large square. These games have overlaid rules which dictate the allowed movements of the players. This is also very important. Who makes the game and who makes the rules and who is allowed to play. So the inside of a Masonic lodge has a checkerboard floor, and this looks very much like a chessboard. And this is a game. And it's a game in who wins and who loses in order to gain more and more power for the Roman Catholic Church. The whole purpose of these secret organizations is for the Roman Catholic Church to gain more and more power over its subjects. Why would anyone want to gain so much power over its subjects? Satan, who is the god of this world, wants to control this world. And he wants to use those who, under the guise of and false pretenses of so-called "we'll stand by you and we will help you," bring more and more people under his rulership and control. We do not realize it, but often when we join organizations or when we ourselves start to form an organization, we have to become part of certain rules. You cannot just be an organization without having a constitution. I remember I wanted to have and start an organization, and Yeshua said to me, "No, you shall not have an organization. Although we have a name, it's only for the vehicle. there is no organization existing, because it is not going to be part of any constitution that are forcing it into a certain form or shape so that it could rule and contain it. The very purpose for being able to become part of a database is to know who is part and who is doing what. If you are not on a database, nobody can control and know what you are doing. And this is what the world leaders are trying to do. All the companies that are advanced in the world are advanced in such a way that those who are Freemasons advance only Freemasons. So if you are not part of them, you will not become successful necessarily, unless Yeshua himself wants you to be successful for a specific purpose. I am not proclaiming any prosperity teaching or anything like that. For many of those who are in prosperity teachings are influencing their people to think in an ungodly manner. Yeshua never taught us to become prosperous, but he said, those who are hungry and thirsty, they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will inherit the kingdom of heaven. The square, in part, also seems to symbolize that which is formed by the human intellect. Nothing in nature creates such a shape. More specifically, in Freemasonry, the square stands for the perfect molding of a person against its nature, shaping a square-minded Mason in their culture. And no individual Mason is truly important. It is the overall social structure and the execution of the greater work or the plan that is important. So there is a plan behind all of this. And all work together to achieve the goal. What is the goal? To get all the subjects to be controlled. We only advance our own people. And if you will not bow down to this system of control and its rules and play it according to its rules, you will be broken and destroyed. And this is the final plan that Satan has in controlling the entire world under one beast system. And through this, Yeshua had shown us these signs to show that they want to control the world and are now creating a system which we will look at as the image of the beast. In the next part of this discussion, we'll be looking at the next sign that Yeshua had shown of a Rosicrucian cross. We truly saw that we will see now and that Yeshua had shown us the Rosicrucian cross is a sign of the Jesuits. We want to look a little bit into what is a Jesuit. Do they still exist? And what is their plan and their purpose? Here is a excerpt from the Wikipedia that says, whoever desires to serve as a soldier of God beneath the banner of the cross in our society, which we desire to be designed, to be designated by the name of Jesus, and to serve the Lord alone and the church, his spouse, under the Roman pontiff, the vicar of Christ on earth, should, after a solemn vow of perpetual chastity, poverty, and obedience, keep what follows in mind. He is a member of a society founded chiefly for this purpose, to strive especially for the defense and the propagation of the faith and for the progress of souls in Christian life and doctrine by means of public preaching, lectures, and any other ministration whatsoever of the Word of God, and further by means of retreats, education of children and unlettered persons in Christianity, and the spiritual consolation of Christ's faithful through hearing, confessions, and administering the other sacraments. Moreover, he should show himself ready to reconcile the estranged, compassionately assist and serve those who are in prisons or hospitals, and indeed to perform any other works of charity according to what is seem expedient for the glory of God and the common good. Now this is what is said, what a Jesuit is. The first thing that gives it away, he says he's a soldier of God. The next thing that gives it away, he says he must use whatever means, and using especially universities, schools and education, and also even churches to preach the message, so that he could reconcile the estranged. Who are the estranged? The estranged are those who do not agree with what they are teaching. Here we have a sign in front of us of a sun with squiggled rays and straight rays. And for those who know, the squiggled rays are for the female goddess, the mother god, which we have seen as Semiramis. And the straight rays are for the male god, which was Nimrod. And he was killed, and he became, according to her, the sun god. And we see in front of us the sun. And on the inside, we see YHWH, which became the names of Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz in Egypt, Isis, Horeth, and Seth. The Roman Catholic Church have changed that and said, no, it means something totally different. But they are trying to hide what really their agenda is. They're trying to get, and it's not really them, but Satan, trying to get all mankind to worship him. And so that they would not worship God, because he hates God and his followers. The Rosicrucian cross is a very clear sign for the Jesuits, or what they call the Society of Jesus. The Society of Jesus is a religious order of men called Jesuits who follow the teaching of the Roman Catholic Church. Jesuit priests and brothers, also sometimes known colloquially as God's Marines, are engaged in evangelization and apostolic ministry in 112 nations on 6 continents, reflecting the formula of the institute or the principle of the society. They are known in the fields of education, in schools, colleges, universities, seminaries, theological faculties. Their intellectual research and cultural pursuit, in addition to missionary work, giving retreats, hospital and parish ministry, promoting social justice and economical dialogue. We see here that the Jesuit is a very dedicated Roman Catholic member. They have made a certain vow of poverty and perfect charity in order to be this zealous member, which becomes like a cult. Really, they are called God's Marines because they are some of the most toughest and the most zealous members of the Roman Catholic Church in order to advance the purposes and the plans of the Roman Catholic Church. And they often work directly for the Pope and under the Pope's supervision. We see here their way of doing it is they work themselves and they study themselves into schools and colleges and universities, and they are highly intellectual people. They are not fools, they are highly trained and educated. This society was founded by Saint Ignatius of Loyola, who after being wounded in a battle experienced a religious conversion and composed the spiritual exercise in order to help others to follow Christ more closely. In 1543, Ignatius gathered 6 young men, including Saint Francis Xavier and Bill Pierre Varet, and together they professed vows of poverty and chastity, and then later obedience, including a special vow of obedience to the Pope. Ignatius Loyola set up a set of rules in order to become part of the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits. And in Rule 13 of Ignatius, his rules for thinking with the church said, I will believe that white that I see is black if the hierarchical church so defines it. What is Loyola really saying? He's actually saying that he will consider wicked good and good wicked if the church so wants it. Ignatius' plan of the Order's organization was approved by Pope Paul III in 1540 by the bull containing the formula of the Institute. The opening lines of this founding document would declare that the Society of Jesus was founded to strive especially for the propagation and defense of the faith and the progress of souls in Christian life and doctrine. So the Jesuits are actually a kind of a military order in order to defend the Roman Catholic Church and also to advance the Roman Catholic Church in areas where they could not get entrance. The society participated in a counter-reformation and later in the implementation of the Second Vatican Council in the Catholic Church. We see that the purpose and the way that they would reach their purposes is to set up a counter in order to remove, as we have said earlier, exactly the way that the Freemasons work. They work with a thesis and an antithesis. They set up an opposite and equal force in order to break that which they want to remove. The Society of Jesus is consecrated under the patronage of Madonna della Strada, a title of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And it is led by a superior general, which currently is Alfonso Nicolas. The headquarters of the society is General Curla, and it is in Rome. The historic Curia of St. Ignatius is now part of the Collegio del Gesù, attached to the Church of the Gesù, which is the Jesuit Mother Church. What we really see is that the head of the Jesuits is called a superior general, and the current person in that position is Alfonso Nicolas. And their headquarters is also situated in Rome, where the Vatican is. There's another part of the Jesuits that we do not often see in the forefront. The Jesuits are portraying themselves in the forefront as this intellectuals who are really trying to advance Roman Catholicism in the most intellectual way. And they're trying to do good things by building some hospitals and by helping some charity organizations. But in reality, there is another side to the Jesuit which are hidden. A very good book to read is The Secret History of the Jesuits by Edmond Paris. The Montina Secreta, also known as The Secret Instructions of the Jesuit, was published in 1612 and 1614 in Krakow, and it alternatively was alleged to have been written by either Claudio Acquavia, the fifth general of the society, or by Jerome Zarovishki. The document appears to lay down the methods to be adopted for the acquisition of greater power and influence for the order and for the Roman Catholic Church. Here it says that it is a document that they have created. But if you look up this document, you will see that they say that this was a forged document in order to put the Jesuits in bad repute. But we'll see in a moment and prove to you that this is actually not a forged document, but it is the truth. There are men like Jack Chick, Avro Manhattan, and Alberto Rivera, and a late former Jesuit priest, Malachi Martin, have exposed the real work of the Jesuits. The Jesuit is actually a spy, or kind of like a secret agent behind the scenes working for the Roman Catholic Church. They work mostly undercover, and they do not reveal who they really are. Henry Garnet, one of the leading English Jesuits, was hanged for misprision of treason because of his involvement in the gunpowder plot. The plan had been an attempt to kill King James I of England and the sixth of Scotland and his family, and most of the Protestant aristocracy in the single attack by blowing up the House of Parliament in 1605. We see that the ends to which the Jesuits will go in order to achieve their goal is that they would start wars. It says here that they would do some assassinations. They are the secret assassins behind the scenes, taking out those who are in the way, removing their own members who reveal the secrets. The person Alberto Rivera is well known for the books that he has written and made into comics, revealing the secrets of the Jesuits, he himself being a Jesuit for many years, seeing the inner circles and knowing that which they have done, is a book called The Crusaders. We see here that they had a plot which was called the gunpowder plot, and here it was actually revealed that this guy, Henry Garnet, was a Jesuit, so they put him to death, making him look like he was a bad guy and all the rest of the Jesuits are good. But in reality, they were all working together. And he was like a pawn on a chessboard that had to be given up.